Hello, Alex Lafkus here. I'm just getting ready to do a little winter streamer fishing. It's horrible, it's miserable, it's cold, but that's what winter streamer fishing is. Couple little things to think about. One, great time of year to own a set of boot foot waders that are a little too big. I'm wearing a size XL with, I don't know, a size too big a feet, and they're not the most comfortable thing. They're not terrible, but I'm trying to stay warm so I can keep all the layers on, do what I need to do. If you have any pressure on your feet, they're going to be freezing. Typically your feet are going to be cold anyway. It's another thing to think about. Like, your feet and your hands are probably going to be cold. If that's an issue, don't go, because it's probably going to be the case. So I'm gonna do a little floating line wade fishing today. I'm just doing a couple quick hits. I know a couple accesses I can walk into where there's some good water around. So I'm gonna fish this, fish it up, fish it down, hit the real good spots I want to hit, and then if I want, I'll drive to another one, do another quick hit. It's the best way that I've found to do it, so you don't freeze. You fish 100 yards here, a couple 100 yards there, a couple 100 yards here, and you get in your truck to warm up. It's what I've done forever when I've been wade fishing in this time of year. Use the car as your warming zone, and if I have good fishing at the first one, I might not hit another one. But just some basic suggestions. I'm going to do a floating line. I tied a fly this morning specifically for today that I'll probably put out the same day I put this video out, just for ease of understanding. So with the floating line, I'm gonna fish, I think, like a 9-foot 1X leader. That should be plenty, because I want to have that length of leader to sink it in a couple of the deeper runs. So we're gonna do that. I also did bring some split shot, because if you find a run your fly isn't rated appropriately, just pinching a little shot on at the head of the fly is all you need, and you can just pop it through that deep water and hope you get something to move. Some days they're out chasing, some days you got to feed them, and that's going to vary throughout the winter. So it's just trial and error. This is my whole fly box, 6 or 8 things. That's all we need. A couple things you should probably consider too, like 4-wheel drive, important when you start going on dirt roads and 2 tracks this time of year. Probably ought to bring a shovel, maybe a tow strap. Well, bad stuff happens. We've all been stuck. We just try to avoid doing it the next time. So anyway, we'll see what we can do. And yeah, should be fun. It's a good excuse to get out and do something this time of year. So yeah, thanks for checking it out. So one thing I'm going to do, I just got my little black leech thing here. But one thing I'm going to do, since I'm running lighter tippet, this is just that 1X, is I'm going to tie it direct, meaning no loop knot. Sometimes this finer tippet won't hold up with loop knots. So there we go, just tie it direct. That'll save you. See how it's tied? It's tied direct, and it's tied hook points up, so I can fish it over shallow wooden structure if need be. But one suggestion, and that should help. One of the biggest struggles is just getting to the water. But here we are. Oh man, that was a good one. God, I wasn't expecting anything there. That was like an 18, 20 incher. Well, we're gonna remember him for the way down. I don't know if you guys saw that. I'm gonna have to dig through that footage. But that was like cast one. I'm just getting in the water. Not expecting anything. And he came out looking at that black leech. Oh, oh God. Jeez, oh Pete. That's it. He come out looking on it too. It's a nice one. That's okay. I can come back on him. And I'll get a much better presentation. They must be hungry though if they're doing things like that. Notice I'm picking on some of this really slow water, and that's where that fish came out of, that first one. That was like boat ramp fish. But the slow black mud, you know, if you watch any of my winter streamer fishing stuff and look at some of those spots, you're gonna notice that. I fish a lot of that type of habitat this time of year. And with this floating line this time of year, it really does allow you to fish it ultra slow, which a lot of times is what it takes. You know, you're not going to get those big charging reaction bites, but that's okay. It's that time of year, man. I spent a lot of years wade fishing and catching nice fish out of little rivers on, you know, what we would consider small or mid-sized streamers right now on floating lines. I'm basically just gonna kind of nymph this through that little bubble line, just see if anybody's out there. They're usually in a little slower water, but you know, a lot of times those sand gravel transitions are good. So we're gonna hit some of that. I got pretty good visual on the fly, which is going to help, because sometimes it's hard to detect the bite in this type of situation. But as long as I can see them swim over, I got a chance. See a flash, see a roll, I'll have a chance at them. And I'm keeping that pretty stout belly in my line so that I can feel that bite or watch the tip of the line jump, you know, almost like typical old school nymphing. Oh boy. Just slow and steady. Slow and steady. And use your eyes too. A lot of times you'll see these fish laid out this time of year. You know, the sight nymphing thing is big. Greenberg's really good at that. That's Josh over at Gates Lodge. He does a lot of that sight nymphing stuff this time of year, which can be extremely effective. Seems like there's definitely days that they're more apt to be caught on the sight nymph program than chasing a streamer. Of course, I don't do much of it, but I'd actually like to get with Josh one time this winter and do some filming. But we'll see. He's a busy boy. Although my schedule's pretty open. See, I'm looking over this seam too into that softer black water. I'll see what's out there. Nothing coming yet. That's okay. There's a lot of that habitat I haven't really covered yet. I'm gonna go slow and steady and try to do that. Got some wood down here I need to work around, so I'm just gonna pop it up over that. Let it fall in between on the backside. You know, a lot of this is just sensing and feeling where your fly is. I tend to fish a little bit more conservative than some people, but I feel a decent presentation without a snag is gonna elicit a lot of strikes. Getting it close enough while avoiding the snag. But I'm kind of working this bar bank with my streamer, but I'm keeping a close eye on this sand flat on the inside, because I've spooked plenty of fish off these flats, and you just want to kind of keep your eye out there. See if you can find one before he flees too, so, which you can. Yeah, that might have been a tiny one I just saw freak out. Do a little popping this right through this center run now too. Just gonna fling it out there, give a little mend, hope to get it down just a touch. It's still pretty shallow out there. I'll just see if anything's out here in the center before I go into the beat on the bushes over there. These fish, you know, in the summer, I feel like, you know, when they're getting really pressured, those fish are finding their way into structure. You know, a lot of times this time of year, even in the middle of the day, they come out to find food. It is middle of the day, but that's the nicest thing about winter fishing. Typically no rush to get there, which I like. I mean, I don't like fishing at night, but I also don't like being up at 4 in the morning. I'm kind of lazy these days. Neither of those things sound fun. And I'm really just kind of focused on the center of this hole for now, as I'm wading up to the top end of it. I will end up fishing that far side, but might be better with a little downstream angle. So then I'll work my way out into there. But for now, I want to fish this soft inside seam here. If you can keep an eye on the tip of your line, you know, a lot of time that's where you notice the bite the first. There's a little tap there before you feel anything. And then it's just kind of a sweeping low downstream hook set to capture them. And you're gonna miss fish. You miss way more fish, I think, wade fishing with streamers than you do floating. Well, that's all right. I've also caught some damn nice fish wade fishing with streamers. And sometimes in January and February, you just need to get your string stretched. You'll notice one thing I do a ton wade fishing also is really use the river as my back cast zone. You know, it's about the only way to keep yourself out of the trees. Come on, baby. Ooh, there should be something fierce down in there. You know, I know these corners have some big trout in them. It's just trying to convince one to come out and dine. But one thing that I'll pretty much guarantee you, I ain't seen a ton of fishing pressure lately. And for me, I think that helps my situation. Any angler in general. Try one super shallow. I got a bunch of glare there, so I figured I'd drag one through there before I worked up on it. But you can see it's kind of behind a stump, nice soft corner. So we're gonna try that before I blast on through. And a lot of my strip, the fly doesn't have a ton of action when I'm going up. Just kind of wiggling it, but my strips are just kind of to keep that line tight so I can pick up on any bites. So it looks like I'm doing a ton of work, but I'm not. I'm just keeping tension. Trying to feel if there's a tick. Trying to keep an eye on the tip of my green line that you can't really see, but that's all right. It's okay. Whatever, sometimes you miss one. And when I'm looking at this spot coming up, you see the seam coming off the right, well, right looking up, hitting into that stump. I'm kind of looking at this soft pocket here. I know I'm going to wade through it, so I'm going to cast to it first. But I'm kind of eyeing that up. It's not deep there, but man, that just seems like a nice little funnel. So we're going to start one way to that slower inside. I'm just trying to keep up with it. A lot of times these fish are in a little slower water than that. But this is, you know, peel it, man. When you're wading, you ain't going that far. Might as well fish it all. Because I'm only going to wade up a couple of bends before I turn around and start heading back down. I know that spot I just went through has some really nice fish. And the next one up here's got some good fish. So we're going to make sure that we wade to those. And a lot of that stuff you learn from, you know, like I've learned it from floating. I'm like, ooh, I like it to there, and then I don't like it there. Being said, you can learn it from canoeing, kayaking, wading, tubing, summer. You know, you just try to find those access points that are more adjacent to a little bit of deeper water, and that'll work well for you. Oh yeah, well, not a bad little slot here, but I don't know about the home. Better get one. That seems a little fast, but I don't know, man. In front of a stump. I'll see Megatron come out of there. Ow, 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 ow. Flying across like Miss Pac-Man. Trying to murder everything in sight. But no, not today. And there was another one out of that super shallow black mud. Ay, ay, ay. That's what they do. Just catches me off guard. Little monsters. Be nice if one would just swim over and bite it instead of just chasing it. But that is like a foot of mud. But the good news is, my fly isn't snagging. The line impact and fly impact aren't spooking them, which is good. They're just not biting it. Oh, there one chased it. Come on, where are you? Come back, get it, get it, get it. Ooh, I saw him streaking out of the shallow. Oh, man. But he came from way up in there. Let's see if we can find him. Makes me kind of want to go to something smaller, but oh, he followed it. Yeah, he zipped on it. So that's 3 fish coming up. Does make me contemplate changing flies, but I don't know, because they are looking at it. Decisions. Might be a little big, but kind of like throwing bigger flies. Well, I'm undecided on if I suck at wade fishing or if wade fishing sucks. It's debatable at this point. But move 3 fished about an hour and a half. Move 3, and that was it. The fly I tied this morning was what moved all 3. I went to that smaller black leech, never saw a fish on it. So take our lumps, got her a couple hours in, and call it a day. But you know, hopefully some of that stuff did help regardless of the lack of production today. It's just some things to think about. One thing I will say was every one of those fish came from that shallow black mud. That kind of poses a problem wade fishing, because that forces you to wade into the deepest water to get your opportunities, which is a little trickier. It seems like a lot of the times as we progress even more into winter, those fish will be more piled up in the deeper holes, which are actually easier for you to get to them from a wading perspective. When you're floating like that in these kind of conditions, it's real easy to fish all that shallow wood out of the boat and keeping the boat in the deepest water. But I see how wading, it's not very much fun. So anyway, hope you guys learned something and you enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe, appreciate all of that. And yeah, any questions, just leave them in the comments. I'll be sure to get back to you. Thanks.